We commence our service on page 124. We enter this sanctuary to welcome Shabbat. Within these walls, we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history and our endless wanderings, it has endured, a beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to lives of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves. Now we, in our turn, come into this sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold. Weariness, doubt, the flaws within our human hearts, the harshness of the weak, let these drop away at the door. In the brightness of Shabbat, let peace settle upon us as we lift our hearts in prayer. Let us turn now to page 120. I'll ask Molly to supervise the candle lighting in the sanctuary.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. You can just type it from down here if you like.
As we welcome the Shabbat into our sanctuary and into our homes, let us meditate for just a few moments on resting ourselves from all that has transpired in the course of the week. And let us welcome in rest into our minds, into our hearts, and into our souls. We continue now just in silent reflection. Psalm 12. Help, Lord, for the godly man seetheth, for the faithful flail among the children of men. They speak vanity, every one with his neighbor. With flattering lips and with a double heart do they speak. The Lord shall cut off all such flattering lips, and the tongue that speaketh proud things. Who have said, with our tongue will we prevail? Our lips are our own. Who is Lord over us? For the oppression of the poor, for the sighing of the needy, now will I arise, saith the Lord. I will set him in safety from him that putteth him off. The words of the Lord are pure words, in their effect upon the earth. They are as silver tried, purified 7 times. Thou shalt keep them, O Lord. Thou shalt preserve them from this generation forever. The wicked walk on every side, when the vilest men are exalted. We now continue with Lecha Dodi, welcoming the Sabbath bride after our meditations and our reflections on what is righteousness. Page 138, the first 2 verses, and then the last verse on page 139. Thank you, Molly. And we continue now with the beautiful Shalom Aleichem written in the 17th century. It's a beautiful poem about the peacefulness of Shabbat. Shabbat is not simply a day of rest, it is a day of peace, something that the world always needs. But we have a day that's been designated by the divine, the Shalom Aleichem, that peace be upon you, peace upon the ministering angels, the King upon high, the Holy One, blessed be God. Page 142, Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Hasharet, Malachi Yod. Mi-melech Malachi Hamlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Malachem l'shalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Yod. Mi-melech Malachi Hamlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barakuni l'shalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Yod. Mi-melech Malachi Hamlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barakuni l'shalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Yod. Mi-melech Malachi Hamlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Please rise for the Baruch Hu, page 146. You may be seated. Part of our service tonight is to see how this will work on Erev Rosh Hashanah. And one of the challenges will be responsive readings. And I'd like to try with the people who are in the congregation. I see there's four people here this evening. So welcome, Shabbat Shalom. And please turn to page 151. In the second reading, I'll take the first paragraph. I'll see if I can hear your response, and then I'll read the third stanza and so forth. We'll just alternate we'll just alternate the sections there. Okay? wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. Then this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Please rise for the Shema, page 152 through page 154.
וקשרתם מאוד הידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתיכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
You may be seated. Let us turn now to page 157. Again, another responsive reading in the middle of the page. And I was able to hear, and we'll try it again. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. And we continue now with the Hashkivenu prayer, page 160.
Eloheinu leshalom.
And just as we have prayed for God to cause us to lie down in peace and give us the privilege of awakening in the morrow, the Vishamru on page 162 that precedes the Tefillah, precedes our personal prayers to God, especially as the new year approaches, where we promise God that we shall keep the Sabbath, that we promise God throughout ages that we will observe it for all time as a remembrance of an eternal covenant, not simply based on our experience of slavery, but really as a dedication to not just heaven and earth, but to the universe as well. It is a sign immemorial that we promise to teach the world by its observance each and every week. The Vishamru, page 162. And we now rise for the tefillah, now that we have prepared our hearts to offer our heartfelt prayers to God, our personal prayers that begin with a recounting of our ancestors and recognizing God's power to give us the courage and the spirit to sustain ourselves and to support one another, beginning on page 164.
Adonai, Sefat Haitivtach, Ufia Gita Hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai,
166.
Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Mahara, Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei Hakol, v'Socher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, u'mevii geula livnei bneihem, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומשיח ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ויצורת זרע.
Page 168.
Mikhail HaKol Ota, Rav Lehoshia. Mekakel Chaim Bekesed, Mikhail HaKol Berabamim, Sobef Tovlim Terofei Kolim, Ubatir Azurim, Umechayem Emunato, B'Shemi Ava, B'Chamocha Ha'el Gevurot, U'Bidonei Elach, Melech B'Brit Umechayem, U'Matzliach Yeshua. V'neiman אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
And we continue now in our own silent meditation, our own prayers to God, either just in our hearts, silent meditation, the prayer book, page 172 through page 180. We continue now with the Oseh Shalom, bottom of page 180. There's a saying that when one door closes, another door opens. And that has been quite true for me this week, as well as my dear wife, Maggie. As everyone, I think, now knows that we are isolating because each of us were tested positive for COVID this week. So before I continue further, I want to thank Carol, our president, members of her executive committee, Gil, especially my wife, Maggie, for, and of course to our cantorial soloist, Molly, and to Andy for helping make these last minute adjustments right before the High Holy Days. And I want to assure everyone that my utmost concern is not to transmit this to anybody. I feel very blessed to be able to have COVID at this time, as opposed to 2 years ago or 3 years ago when this first began. I reflected back on, realized, because I experienced some heavy symptoms last night. I'm fine, as you can see. I feel, outside of a little sore throat right now and a cough that I think is diminished. Last night, I wondered how people got through it without the technology, without the medications, without the therapies that we have today. And of course, as we know, many did not. And as I was thinking that, my heart's really went out to all those who lost loved ones because of this virus, and because how easily it can be spread, how easily it can be transmitted. And even though we have therapeutics today, and Paxlovid, which is what I'm on right now, is almost a miracle drug. I mean, it's amazing what it's doing for me, just in terms of relieving symptoms and me beginning to feel better. But moreover, how grateful I am for science, and how grateful I am to be here in this time and in this place. It is a very small price to pay when we think of those who lost loved ones, couldn't even attend funerals. They lost the opportunity to go to life cycle events like weddings and so forth. And the enormous strain of our healthcare workers during that awful, awful period. And though the pandemic is over, still hundreds of people die each day from COVID, possibly connected to other conditions. So by all means, me and my wife are very blessed and very grateful. And our hearts go out to those who were not so fortunate and lost loved ones during this terrible time. It always gives us pause when we do get ill to come a little bit more in touch with our mortality. And what does that mean? What does our mortality mean? And this is the beauty of Rosh Hashanah. And my sermons will point a little bit to this. Rosh Hashanah is the opportunity. This season is the opportunity for us to focus on our mortality. You know, it's not to be taken literally that God writes down in a book who's going to live and who's going to die, who's going to be wealthy, who's going to be poor, who's going to suffer, who's going to be happy. That's not really the thrust of Rosh Hashanah. That's just the liturgy, the poetry, trying to get us to a certain place. And I believe in my studies and in my training and in my experience, the entire purpose of Rosh Hashanah is to make us aware of our mortality and to realize how fragile and thus how precious life is. And that regardless of the circumstances that we find ourselves in a particular time, it's a small price for me to stand on Erev Rosh Hashanah here when my heart wants to be in the sanctuary. It's a very, very small price in the scheme of things. Of course, when it's you, it feels, as a rabbi, it feels important, but Rosh Hashanah teaches us and teaches me a very different lesson. Therefore, and also I get an opportunity to try this on Zoom. I've never seen so many people on Zoom. It's a different experience. And in many ways, it's wonderful. I don't think I can make this a habit, but it's certainly a wonderful experience to see all of you, the smiles, and to see how you pray just as easily at home as you can being in the sanctuary, though we would love to have you, as many of you can, to come. But I know that when it's dark and other circumstances, it can be difficult. It can be hard. I know that I'm rambling just a little bit. You'll excuse me. I'll conclude shortly. And that is to say that by recognizing our mortality, by realizing that life is fragile, that we can get a deeper sense of appreciation for all that we have one another, that indeed we are a congregational family. Yes, I know. And I know there are some people that have had some difficulties in the past. And I urge those people to come back just like family. Families have arguments, they get into disputes, it happens. It's just the nature of things. I can remember growing up and going over to my grandparents' house on a Shabbat, on an Erev Shabbat, and arguments would flow across the table like please pass the string beans. It was like that. That's the nature. That's the nature of families. We have disputes, we have disagreements, but we are a congregational family at the end of the day. And we all are so grateful for what came before us to build this magnificent sanctuary. How grateful it is that we have one another, that we have this technology where I can be here and other people can participate in prayer together. And what we are doing to grow our congregation with new and young families, the beautiful music that we have, and the dedication of of our cantorial soloists, our pianists. Now we have a new tenor to join us for the High Holy Days that we're so grateful for, and for the leadership, and for everything about this temple. I'll speak more about that during the High Holy Days. But tonight, and particularly personally, it's a time to recognize our mortality, and therefore to be grateful for all that we have, especially beginning with one another. Shabbat Shalom. What a beautiful prayer of the Shema Yisrael that leads us to the Mishaberach, the prayer for healing, page 371. We pray for the healing of Rhoda Bennett, Harold H. Fink, Glory Weisberg, David Cherniak, Phyllis Feibelman, Dr. John Johnson, Mark and Hetty Blinderman, Elise Zeman, Jennifer and Amy Sundberg, Pam Fisher, Bettina Prager, Mark Schoenfeld, Alice Glass, Stephen Noga, Margene Rubin, Cheryl Wallace, Elizabeth Kaiser. Now turn to the people on Zoom. Is there anyone who you wish to add to the Misha Berach list to include in our prayers for healing?
Carolyn Perry.
Thank you. Andy, if you can unmute Mel, please.
Yes. So how about Rabbi and Mrs. Borak?
Well, thank you. We're in the process certainly of healing. If I can stand here, then that says something. Thank you so much, Mel. Thank you. Thank you. And Maggie is on the mend as well. I would like to add Howard and Patricia Silverman, whose spirits are low tonight on the passing of their beloved Shana. Please rise for the Aleinu. Page 586.
Oh
You may be seated once the ark is closed. This week we observed the yard sites of David Friedlander, Julius Marks, Ruth Brown, Robert Nathan Handmaker, Yetta Lay, Adolf Rubel. Is there anyone observing a yard site or saying Kaddish for someone who they wish to remember at this time? The Mourner's Kaddish, page 598. Please rise. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabah v'alma divra chirutei v'amlich malchutei v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechon beit Yisrael ba'agala u'vizman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabah mevorach le'olam u'le'almei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudsha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata da'amiran b'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mroma u'ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May God, who establisheth peace unto the heavens, grant peace and comfort in the hearts of all who mourn, and let us say, Amen. You may be seated. Just a few brief announcements. Services this Sunday will be at 7 p.m., followed by a very lovely oneg for Rosh Hashanah. On Monday morning, services will be at 10 a.m. We will have Torah study on Wednesday at the usual time, 5:30, and of course, next Friday evening at 6. The family service for Rosh Hashanah has been moved because of the COVID that both my wife and I are experiencing to next Shabbat morning. That will be a Rosh Hashanah family service for directed at those with young families, and that will be at 10 a.m. I want to thank once again Molly and Miles for their beautiful chanting of our service, and to Charmaine, once again, beautiful accompaniment, and to Andy, who I can usually see in person, but now I can't see him on the screen. He's kind of like the Wizard of Oz in the back. I want to thank him for making all of this technically possible. We certainly invite any feedback that you have relative between now and Sunday. I hope everyone was able to hear me okay. Good, very good, okay. We're gonna continue now with the Kiddush on page 123, and then we'll conclude our service with Ein Kelohenu, page 626.
I'm going to ask for help in the congregation with the Kiddush. Make sure I don't forget my words. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, eat hamotzi since you're up here?
It's been a while since I've done it.
I'll sing it with you. How
Yeah,
about that?
that
We'll all
sounds
sing it
good.
together. Baruch atah Elohim haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices join in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diego.
Back up for our closing song, and I'm going to take the liberty just to introduce it because it's going to be a new piece for everyone. This was a piece commissioned for Park Avenue Synagogue in New York for Ozzy Cantor. Ozzy, he has a lot of followers, so you may know who he is. But I contacted the composer in residence at Park Avenue, and he gifted our synagogue copies of this Ein Kelohenu, and I asked him. I said we would love to sing it, and I just think it's a fun ending for our Shabbat service. So you may pick up on it because it's fairly catchy. So if you do, please sing along. Ein Kelohenu, ein Kadonenu, ein Kemalkenu, ein Moshienu, Mikelohenu, Mikadonenu, Mikemalkenu, Mikemoshienu,
Shabbat shalom to everyone. Beautifully. I shout a koach to both Molly and Miles. Thank you so much for that beautiful rendition, and to Charmaine. It was beautiful. Shabbat shalom to everyone.